before they announced the Resident Evil 4 remake, my thoughts on a remake in Resident Evil 4 was that it didn't really need it, but if they were to remake it, I'd still play it. So with the announcement of a Resident Evil 4 remake, it kind of got me wondering, well, Resident Evil 5 still holds up, and I wouldn't really say it needs a remake, but there are things I feel like they could improve. And in today's video, that's what I'll be going over. If they ever remade Resident Evil 5, what I would like to see from it, and what I think based on Resident Evil 2, 3, and what looks of 4 remake, what Capcom might do to Resident Evil 5 remake. First off, starting with a simple one, and one that I feel like is straightforward and that will definitely be getting, is just the ability to move and aim at the same time. With Resident Evil 2, 3, and what looks to be 4 implementing this mechanic, I feel like 5 would definitely benefit from it more than those 3 did, because 5 is more actiony and just makes the gameplay more smoother and fluid. Another great gameplay mechanic that I think would really benefit Resident Evil 5 is similar to Resident Evil 0, or more recently Revelations 2, with the swapping mechanic between partners, so that way you can just switch between Chris and Sheva at any time throughout the mission if you're playing by yourself, so you don't have to keep going back to the main menu just to switch characters. And on top of that, an additional benefit would be, like right before the start of a new mission when you're at the store, the ability to switch costumes. So if you want to switch up the costumes between Sheva and Chris at any time, or even on the fly, something like Resident Evil 0 Remastered did, where you just go to the start menu and you can switch costumes that way. This is kind of a 2-in-1 where they should add more horror elements and more night areas in the game. And because if there was one thing Resident Evil 5 was lacking, it was definitely horror. And I'm not saying like, make the game feel more like the classic ones, still keep the action, survivor horror that 5 has, just make it a little bit more horror oriented. And I feel like one addition they could do to easily improve on it is just making the game take place a lot more at night. But one thing I've always felt like was missing the most from Resident Evil 5 is that it's a co-op game, and I don't feel like it ever utilizes it to its fullest potential. There's not many puzzles where you have to work together. Most of them you can figure out on your own. You don't even need your other partner's help. And then the enemies in the game, you really never need each other to take down an enemy. There's so many times where I play on veteran and I playing with a human partner, and I'll either feel like they don't need me or I don't need them, because I can just play the whole round arena by myself and get through it perfectly fine. I never need their help taking down an enemy. I never need their help solving a puzzle, and it would be really cool, since this is supposed to be Resident Evil 5 is supposed to be a co-op game, and one of the first Resident Evil co-op games besides Outbreak. It'd be really cool to actually have to solve puzzles and take down enemies while working as a team, because that would make it a lot more survival horror oriented if you actually had to cooperate with your teammates to progress the story. Ever since Resident Evil 7 released, Capcom really seemed to like the idea of including a stalker type of enemy in their games, whether that's Jack from RE7, Lady D from 8, Mr. X, or Nemesis. And with the rumor of a stalker enemy being in RE4, it got me thinking, what if in Resident Evil 5, if they ever remade it, they made Jill a stalker for a short period of time, right after the battle between Chris, Sheva, and versus Albert Wesker and Jill. When Wesker leaves, instead of you getting that P30 off right then and there, if you have to find a way to get it off instead of just ripping it off, and while you're trying to figure out how to get it off, she's chasing you around, and she has range attacks with machine guns, and you can't kill her, so you can't shoot her, you can't blow her up, otherwise the mission would be failed. So you have to either invade her, use melee attacks, or like some kind of flashbang or something to stun her, until you get to a point where you're able to take off the P30 device and end her brainwashing. Because I think that would add a spin on the stalker. As far as the story goes, I would like for them to add in some of their content ideas, and there are two things I personally would like to see changed. First, I'm going to tackle those two things. The first being diving into Sheva's backstory a lot more. It's kind of hinted at a little bit throughout the story, but mainly you just learn about it through in-game files, or some sort of flashback sequence, or like a DLC where you play as Sheva as a kid experiencing her backstory. Because if you guys didn't know, Sheva actually experienced an outbreak when she was a little kid, and it would be really cool to actually be able to witness that and get to know more about Sheva as a character and why she's invested in bioterrorism. The second thing I'd personally like to see is more involvement from Jill. I mean, because Jill was there during the mansion incident with Wesker when he tried to kill all the stars. She stopped him from hearing Chris, threw him out a window, he kidnaps her, brainwashes her, makes her his puppet, and then all she does is say, here's a couple of rocket launchers, and Chris and Sheva finish them off. She doesn't even really help take down Wesker. At the very least, they could have had her be like Claire in Revelations 2, where she's in the helicopter like shooting from above while they're on the ground fighting them. But she doesn't even do that. So I would specifically like to see more involvement from her in the final fight and actually help take down Wesker, since she also was there when everything went down from the beginning. Then just more of her throughout the game, because she probably only has actually like 10-15 minutes of actual screen time if you don't count the DLCs. So I would just like to see more Jill. Always. She's my favorite of all time. So any more of her we can get, the happier I am. And as for the content I would like to see added, there's really only two of everything I've seen. And I just want to give a shout out to Evil Blitz on YouTube for providing me these cut concepts. And if you guys want to check out his video, I'll leave it down in the description. But the first concept I would like to see added into a remake would be, they were usually going to have a tyrant in the game, and I always just love the tyrants in Resident Evil, whether that's 1, 2, 3, or even when they showed up in Damnation. So any involvement of a tyrant would be nice, because it was originally supposed to actually kill Exela. I butchered that, but and I think that'd be a neat concept, and a tyrant boss fight is always fun. And then the second one was Barry was actually supposed to show up throughout the game and help you out. You know, come to think of it, if they was going to add Barry in the game, they might as well have added in Rebecca as well, because then you would have all the OGs from the first game. You would have Chris, you would have Jill, you would have Wesker, Rebecca, and Barry all back in one final battle against Wesker to bring him down, and that would just be so poetic. So those are the two cut content ideas I would love for them to add, since then they seem to be wanting to add in cut content from their original ideas on the remakes. So those are my ideas for a Resident Evil 5 remake if they ever do it. And just let me know down in the comments what you guys would like to see. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. And take care.